Welcome to Talk Travel with Heather Tate, North Mississippi's podcast for savvy travelers. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is a weekly podcast that airs every Monday on the Shark 102.3 FM radio station based in Ripley, Mississippi, and is then released as a podcast. Travel advisor and travel enthusiast Heather Tate of Whimsical Destinations gives listeners expert travel tips curated through the years of personal and professional experience. By clicking subscribe, you'll have a new travel tip to add to your collection delivered to your podcast library every Monday. Talk Travel with Heather Tate is brought to you by Sun Bear Studio. Sun Bear Studio is a boutique recording studio in the heart of Ripley, Mississippi. When you record with us at Sun Bear Studio, we can mix, master, register, and publish your music, your podcast, or your family story. Email us when you're ready at sunbear@jc.media.
This program was recorded at Sun Bear Studio in Ripley, Mississippi.
Good morning, Northeast Mississippi travelers. This is Heather with Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and I'm so excited to share my adventures and tried and true tips with you, whether you are also a seasoned traveler, a hopeful traveler, or currently an armchair traveler, meaning you're going to follow along with us from home for now. This is our 162nd episode of Talk Travel with Heather Tate, and this week I'm going to talk to you all about later moons, also known as the honeymoon pause. Now, I've been thinking about this topic for months now, maybe even longer than that, but the reason why I decided it'd be a great time to share it with you is because I am currently spending the week in Curacao for my Sandals Wedding Moon Specialist Retreat. I am a gold Sandals Wedding Moon Specialist, which means I book a lot of sandals weddings, destination weddings, retie the knots, and of course, honeymoons. So most couples think that they have to take their honeymoons directly after their weddings. And I'll admit that when we got married over 18 years ago, I don't think I would have had it any other way myself. Like, I just knew the honeymoon immediately followed the wedding. Now, our first cruise, which was about 6 months after we got married, our first cruise, we met a couple celebrating 6 months after they were married. So I thought that was very unusual then. I was thinking, oh, they had a belated honeymoon. But then it made sense because I found out that they were a military couple. And so he could not immediately get leave for the honeymoon after the wedding, so they delayed it. And I was like, oh, that's a good reason. But to me, I could think of very few other reasons why you would delay a honeymoon then. Well, that has changed in the past 18 years, especially, I would say, since 2020. Since then, it has become a lot more common to delay honeymoons. Now, initially, we would know during the pandemic that people delayed honeymoons because not all travel was up and going, or it's very difficult to get passports on time, or they thought, okay, well, we're going to stay closer to home right now and we'll save this for a bigger trip for an anniversary. It is becoming increasingly popular for couples in 2024, 2025 and onwards to wait months or even a year after they were married to take their honeymoon. Now, why? Now, we mentioned the pandemic being a reason that this kind of jump-started, but there are several other reasons why couples are waiting. For one, they're less stressed. They have more time and energy to focus on the honeymoon itself. Weddings now are a huge production. We know this. On average, it is $28,000 for a wedding in Mississippi. This isn't a national figure. This is data for Mississippi. Your average wedding costs $28,000 from beginning to end. That's a lot more money than it was 20 years ago, or almost 20 years ago when I got married. So some of the main reasons couples are waiting will be because they have to regenerate money for their honeymoon, the cost of weddings. Another thing is time off work. They just don't have enough PTO from being off for the wedding and for the honeymoon, especially if they want to do a longer honeymoon, 6 or 7 days or more. Another reason will be school. If couples are getting married where one or both are still in college or in a trade school or grad school, then they're going to want to wait till graduation if it's going to affect their school being in session. Another reason could be the seasons or dates that the couple chooses to get married are not the best times for them to travel where they want to go on their honeymoon. Maybe they got married at Christmas, but they're wanting to go somewhere. Maybe they want to go to Europe, and they want the weather to be warm and sunny, so they're obviously going to wait till the following summer to go, or at least late spring. Or they know how much flights cost around Christmas and New Year's and realize even if we wait a few months, or if we waited until next summer or fall, our prices will be a lot better. So that's another reason the season or the dates do not line up with where they want to go. Sandals actually recognizes the popularity of the later moon. Just recently, it went from honoring the honeymoon packages, which originally, for as long as I have been booking honeymoons at Sandals, they have been within 30 days of being married. Then you can apply for the free honeymoon package. It recently was extended to a year because they know, like a lot of other resorts and hotels and companies, that couples are delaying their honeymoons. So that was a significant sign. What are some benefits of waiting for your honeymoon? Well, for one, I have couples all the time that they don't have passports yet. And so when they get their passports for the first time, the bride especially, she wants to have her married name. Now, it's different if you already have a passport and you've had it for several years, it's still valid, and you're going to keep your maiden name and travel because it's valid, and that's how you're going to book your flights, to match your passport always. But it's another thing if you're going to get your passports for the very first time and you want to start off with your passport in your married name. So you would have to then wait till after you're married to be able to apply for your new passport after your name is legally changed. We've already talked about cost being a major factor. Longer to save up for the honeymoons, both money and time. The wedding, which took so much of your focus and brain power, now has been, there's been some time. So you have some time to dedicate for your honeymoon to make it the sole focus. Because let's think about this. Your wedding is one day. I mean, sometimes it's being extended into a weekend. Most of the time, not only is it just one day, but it's a few hours within that one day. Whereas your honeymoon is for a week, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, on average. I would say about 6 nights for a honeymoon. But there's a lot more time then that you're going to be on the honeymoon than you're actually getting married at your wedding. So it would make sense that you want to have time to focus on that. But a lot of couples then are so emotionally drained immediately after their wedding. They just completely want to relax and chill, but they don't want to think about what they need to plan for next. Or it can be an overload of things. So just as you would have a wedding planner, you can have a honeymoon planner to help you through the process, like myself. But if you didn't, and you were going to do this all on your own, then you might want to give yourself some time so you're not trying to do both at the same time. So you're able to focus, not be distracted. Another thing I think is a wonderful reason for waiting, if you need to wait, it can reignite the wedding bliss. Like it is a jump start in reminding yourselves of the joy you felt on your wedding day, whether it was 6 months before, 9 months before, or even a year before. Now, what do you do if you want to have a later moon, or you feel like you need to have a later moon, but you still feel like you don't want to miss out on the honeymoon? Then my suggestion is to take a mini moon. And what is that? That's where you take the weekend away. You take the weekend so you can take a smaller honeymoon, hence the mini moon, go to the mountains, rent a cabin for a long weekend, maybe even, 3 or 4 nights. Stay in a B&B, somewhere where you can drive, where you're not having to add flights to it yet. That takes a lot of stress away if you're wanting something small and intimate for your weekend away, something close to home. So it could be something like Mentone, Alabama. It could be Chattanooga, Tennessee. Or maybe you could go to the mountains in Georgia. So many beautiful places there, whether Helen, Georgia, or Blue Ridge, Georgia. Maybe it's the Carolinas. Also less crowded than Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge area, or Branson, Hot Springs. All of these are great ideas for a mini moon. Or maybe you're like, well, we really want to go to an all-inclusive. I love the beach. I want to go to the beach. Then go to Pensacola or the 30A for a long weekend for the mini moon, or for 2, 3, 4 nights afterwards, and save your big celebration, your big honeymoon, for a little bit later. So these are all some things to consider about the later moon. If you are currently planning your wedding or your honeymoon and you find yourself getting really really overwhelmed trying to fit them in at the same time, and you just don't know how you're going to do it. This is the whole point of this episode, I wanted to say, was to take the pressure off. I've had so many couples this year alone that chose to wait a few months. Maybe it was for childcare reasons. They were, the kids were in school and they had so many activities, so they needed to wait till the summer when they were going to be able to have childcare, whenever it was going to work out for their schedules from work and home life. So there's nothing wrong with having a later moon. It can be just as magical, whether you go right after your wedding or you wait a little bit. I'll have some more ideas and suggestions for later moons for you, and a lot of content this week about potential destination weddings and honeymoons on our Facebook group, Heather and Logan Tate, Whimsical Destinations. Have a magical week, whatever you're doing this week, whether it's planning your future honeymoon, later moon, or just enjoying the quality time with your friends, your family, your loved ones. Have an amazing adventure. Remember, life is short. Take that trip. You won't regret it.
This show is made possible by JC Media, LLC in Ripley, Mississippi. JC Media owns the Shark 102.3 Classic Rock FM radio station where the show is hosted, and Sun Bear Recording Studio where the interviews are recorded. We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes, Google Podcast, or Amazon Music, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That email is theshark1023@gmail.com. Subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app or stream episodes online at shark1023.com/podcasts. Today's episode was produced by Melinda Marsalis. It was edited by Rick Williams and engineered by Chris Marsalis. The podcast technician is Joyce Grady.